Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Take 5 for Torah. Today is July 16th, and because it's Wednesday, that means that we are going to discuss some custom of ours. Why do we do that? Which might have an answer in the Parsha. The question here is not so much relevant to this time of year, more for a little before and a little after, but the answer to the question, why do we say full Hallel throughout the festival of Sukkot, but on Pesach we refrain from saying full Hallel after the opening day of Pesach or 2 days of Pesach outside of Israel? Most people would answer because the holiday of Pesach involved the death and defeat of so many Egyptians, especially at the Red Sea. But that's not the answer that the Gemara gives. The Gemara asks this very question at the end of Maseches Taanis and then also in Maseches Arachin, and it gives a very different answer that has to do with our parsha. It says that because the korbanos on Sukkot change each and every day, right? When you daven Musaf on Sukkot and Chol HaMoed, you have to know what day of Chol HaMoed is to know what kind of insertion to put. But on Pesach, it's the same Musaf each and every day. After the first day, it doesn't change. It's Vikraftim. It's the same korban. But when you daven Musaf throughout Pesach, you don't have to look for what day it is. It's the same addition. So this is the reason the Gemara gives. A new korban each day requires the joy of the full Hallel throughout Sukkot, but on Pesach it's the same old korban, so nothing new. So something of a diminishment of the Hallel. One has to wonder, what kind of explanation is this? The explanation you find in some of the Rishonim. The Torah quotes the Shibbolei Haleket and the Beis Yosef, and you see the commentaries all the way down, the Taz, Mishnah Berurah. Everybody quotes this medrash that the angels that wanted to sing Shira, and God said, "Masi Yodai Tovim Bayam Batem Rotzim Lamar Shira." The works of my hands are drowning, and you want to sing Shira? First of all, we did sing Shira at Kriyas Yam Suf. No Gemara says that was wrong. All right, the angels shouldn't say full Hallel throughout Pesach. What does that have to do with us? We did sing Shira there. And there are some sources in Chazal that indicate that the Masei Yodai were actually us. We were not out of trouble when the angels wanted to sing Shira. God said, wait till Masei Yodai are out of trouble. Admittedly, two Gemaras, one in Sanhedrin, one in Megillah, seems to imply that the Masei Yodai are the Egyptians, but still, the question is asked, what does this have to do with the other about the korbanos of Sukkot and Pesach? The answer might be in another Gemara in Maseches Sukkah that says that the 70 korbanos, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, of the Parei HaChag, the cows offered during all of Sukkot, relate to the 70 nations of the world. The Medrash says in Bamidbar Rabbah that if the nations knew how they were harming themselves by not having these 70 offerings on Sukkot, if they knew how much they're harming themselves, they never would have destroyed the temple. So the korbanos of Sukkot are meant to be like an outreach to the nations. Korbanos of Pesach, though, is a very different kind of holiday. In fact, the Haftarah of the first day of Sukkot has Zechariah inviting all the Gentiles to join us in the Sukkah, and that's how they'll be saved in the end of days. But Pesach is a very different kind of holiday. It's a much more insular holiday. We don't have any psukim like Ufros Aleinu Sukkah Shlomecha, the Sukkah of peace, the ingathering of all the nations in this wonderful Sukkah. On Pesach, it's Kol Arel Lo Yochal Bo, Kol Ben Nechor Lo Yochal Bo. The nations can't join us for Korban Pesach. It's a very parochial, particularistic kind of holiday. So once we have that particularism, then we can be universalistic with the holiday of Sukkot in our messianic aspirations for the return of God's Shekhinah, which will affect and help the nations of the world as well as how it will affect us. So that Sukkot may just be that these later sources, which give a different explanation for why we have this different manifestation of Hallel on Pesach and Sukkot, maybe explaining why there's only one same holiday on Pesach, because it involved the death of many of our enemies. Even though they killed us and they destroyed us and they enslaved us, we're still at a loss because of that loss of life, something, of course, that didn't attend to Sukkot. So this is now an explanation in this week's Parsha for the difference between the Hallel on Sukkot and Pesach, and maybe that the Gemara is just explaining explaining the explanation, right, of why there's only one korban on Pesach, but also so many different ones on Sukkot, because of this element of the differences of the nature of the holidays.